Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the City Commission workshop with our venerable Community Redevelopment Agency Advisory Board members. It's on. Can you hear me now? Okay. So anyway, thank you all for being here today, and I would invite the clerk to please call the roll of the City Commission.
Vice Mayor Moretis.
Here.
Commissioner Glassman.
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie. Commissioner Sorensen. Not here at the moment. Mayor Trentalis.
Here. And the chair of the advisory board. Would you like to call the roll of your advisory board?
Mayor, I'll call it if you want.
Okay.
Christopher Murphy. Michael Lewin. Chair Fodderingham. Lisa Crawford. Stephen Liu. Alfredo Olvera. John Hooper. Kenneth Calhoun. Lorraine Mizell. John Quayle. And Tina Teague.
We good?
Yep.
Do we have a quorum? Okay, great.
Yes.
Were there additional?
Miss someone?
Dylan Legai, you left out?
How could you?
My apologies. I missed
Such
the
an
third page.
inconspicuous
I'm sorry.
character.
Leanne Barber.
Leanne's on it also. Yeah.
Yeah, she's here.
Did you not turn the page?
And Sonia Burrows. There was a third page. I didn't turn it. Sorry about that.
Okay. Madam Chair, what do you bring to us today?
Okay, I don't know if this might.
It's working. It's working. Yep. Good morning. Talk a little closer into it. It's on, but you just got to talk more closely.
Okay,
There you
that
go.
better?
Much better.
Okay, we've come to you today to kind of talk about the progress of the CRA, where we are and where we need to go in the future. We probably need to start by looking at the timeframes to ensure that the projects are reviewed in a timely manner. And there may need to be better tracking of projects from the approval status where the agreements are finally signed through the whole process to when the permit is issued.
Okay, why don't you stop there? Clarence, you want to respond to that? I know this has been an issue that you brought up to me before. And if you can go to the podium and see how Mr. Woods would like to respond to that.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the commission, Chair Fodderingham of the advisory board, and members of the advisory board. This is an issue that the chair and I have spoken about, and we acknowledge that there probably should be better follow through with respect to our projects once we have them approved. And within our agreements, we should provide for timing milestones and maybe a terminus point, you know, at some point in time if
We don't have
projects
that?
aren't moving.
We don't have that?
On the ones more recently, we do. On the ones that are more recent, we do. But I guess that wasn't always a practice, but we have now instituted that as a practice, and
All right.
we
Well,
will moving forward.
so what can you establish, or what have you already established to provide, to calendar the progress points of these projects? I mean, you've been there now how many years?
It will be 4 years.
4
in
years.
August.
So is there someone or multiple people in your office that could be assigned the responsibility to track the progress of these? I mean, I see a lot of progress on a lot of these projects. I mean, we have a YMCA that's about to open, and Smitty's Wings opened, and so a lot of these things have materialized. So
Hey, brother.
oh hey, so where is the concern here? I mean, there are obviously certain projects that aren't following a path to success.
Well, we have some projects that were approved in 2019, and granted, there was the pandemic. and then some projects in 2020, but there seems to be little movement. And at this point in time, we'd hope that we see a little more movement on some of those projects.
So have you spoken with the committee and have they identified which projects they have indicated are of concern to them?
Well, yes, and we've actually identified projects that we are concerned with, and we've targeted them for actually defunding them, because they've been on the books for so long. And if not, then they have to show substantial progress, and not just what they have described as being in the process and not having anything move. We have several projects that are in DSD, and they make claims about not having any movement, but when we further explore, we understand that it's not necessarily DSD, it's that there hasn't been any follow-up from the developer themselves. So,
All right, so it would seem to me, considering the demand for funds, that if someone received an appropriation from the CRA board and their project is not moving along, clearly, we need to claw back those funds, because most of these funds are reimbursement funds anyway, aren't they?
yes.
Right. So if their projects are not moving forward, first of all, they're holding back the neighborhood, which is, to me, an anathema. The whole idea is to move the neighborhood forward anywhere in the CRA. And secondly, it would seem to me that our staff should be, breathing down their neck, making sure that if this isn't going to happen, you can't keep giving people chances. COVID is gone. It's not here right now. I mean, I had work done at my house all through COVID, okay? And it can be done. Workers still have to work, and people still want to earn money and pay their bills. So the point is that, there are plenty of people looking to tap into our funding sources that can really do good things for that community, right? Anywhere in the CRA. So I think that we need to be more responsible with that, and I think that's what we're looking to accomplish, right?
Right, and Mr. Mayor, if I may state, we talked about this, I guess, at our December meeting, and we thought initially we were going to have a workshop with you in January. And I do believe that staff has begun to look at these issues that we raised.
Well, you shouldn't have to be telling them to do this. I mean, this should be standard operating procedure within the department. So maybe at some point at a future CRA meeting, not today, but at some soon CRA meeting, you can tell the commission what practices that you now have established that track these projects that we've approved, and come back to us and tell us where we need to maybe claw back some of this money. I mean, obviously we have to make that decision. So and it's unfair to others who really have viable projects that are looking for assistance, and we're tied up with projects that just aren't going anywhere. So okay, next.
I agree, Mr. Mayor, and we can, as soon as the next meeting, not this meeting today, but the next meeting can come back with a report.
Okay, all right, great.
Well, Mayor, when we come back with best operating procedures for how to move forward, I'd also like to see a list of the projects and the amount of money we're talking about, where they are in their development too.
You have that in your packet right now.
You gave it to me in my backup?
Yeah, it's in the back.
Okay, thank you. And then you'll let us know how we can move forward with the projects that
Yes,
aren't accelerating. All right, thank you.
absolutely.
Which backup? The backup for the workshop or the backup for the CRA board meeting?
Hey, Clarence,
Well, it
Wait,
doesn't,
could you answer that question? Is the backup for the workshop or the backup for the CRA board meeting?
It's for the workshop.
It's for the workshop, okay.
well, it has,
Yes.
So why don't we do something a little different, since the backup is saying that there's X amount of projects sitting there. Why don't we take the first couple and you give me examples of what's holding those projects up? Because I know it's not just what you stated today. Some of the stuff is how we began, word charts through the city prior to getting back to us if it needs to get to us. And just just take the first 5 if you don't mind, Mayor, and just give us an example of why these projects aren't where they should be. And it could be in DSD, trying to be approved, going back and forth, where we should have some type of, in my opinion, some type of fast track, since these are our projects in the CRA with this this already slated money for a specific area. We shouldn't have that many hurdles there if everything is there. And the projects that you mentioned earlier, Mayor, the YMCA, Smitty's Wings, you had the city internally pushing the YMCA. With Smitty's, they had the owners had expediters, pushing it as fast as they could. And I think a lot of the developers try to do that because the incentive dollars don't outweigh the investment dollars, and they're trying to get these projects to the finish lines, those that want to do it. Some people are just, stockpiling and just holding that slot, waiting on the industry or the market to move before they decide to do something. But
We're talking about a lot of money here.
exactly. But I think some of those projects are just stuck somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
So let's try. Is the Adderley on that? I don't have my iPad open. Try the Adderley. Where's that one?
You say the Adderley?
Yeah.
So that is probably a more recent project.
But
What's happening?
we started a long time ago, and then they switched, I guess, investors. But it's my understanding now that they're ready to go. They'll break ground in the next 6 months if they get that okay from wherever they need to get an okay from. So use that one as number one, and then give us two or three more.
So with the Adderley, like you mentioned, they are ready. They came before the the Board of Commissioners, right before the end of the year, to have the new project. I mean, the new developer approved for the project. Right now, what they're waiting on is their development agreement to be finalized.
What to be finalized?
Their development agreement.
Okay.
When we brought it before you, we only brought it before you with a term sheet. And the term sheet basically has the full bones of the legal and the business deal. But now we have to have a full development agreement. And we're just held up right now until, we can move it through our legal process.
So where's the development agreement?
It's with legal.
And how long has it been there?
Last 2-3 months.
So how long does it take to come out of legal? I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot. What I'm saying is, and we tried to fix this once before when we had inside counsel, and we were moving projects a little faster, but then we pulled back the inside counsel, legal counsel, and we're now sharing legal counsel from my understanding. So I'm not trying to just pick on the Adderley, but I'm saying if that is an issue, then we need to look at bringing a legal counsel back over to the CRA that can work specifically on these projects. And correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, but why does it take 3 to 4 months to do an agreement? Maybe Lynn could help me out.
Well, again, we're sharing counsel, and she's got a workload that she's not the CRA's counsel exclusively.
Well, before we say that, I don't believe the workload is an issue. Perhaps Lynn can explain.
Yeah, but hold on, Alan. I appreciate that, but staff, help me out, all of you. How long does it take you to prepare something to send over? A project like that. Let him answer first, and then you come back, Lynn.
Sorry, say that again, Commissioner.
How long does it take you to prepare a project to get there for this process?
So potentially it could take 6 months for us to get all of the documentation together before we present it before the advisory board and then the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. Now, go ahead, Lynn, please.
Lynn Solomon, CRA attorney. So, Commissioner, if you will recall, with the Adderley, they had new investors, and
Right.
we brought this back to you for approval of those new investors. So we are still working through some of those. We did get the revised letter of intent done. We did get the affidavits as was requested. There are also some changes in their development approvals. There are some changes with the density bonus, so what, other changes like that. I have gotten calls. I will make this a priority, but certainly by the time that they close on their, construction financing, the development agreement will be in place and we will be ready to close when they're ready to close on their financing, which I understand will be sometime in June or July or possibly later. So while they have the letter of intent, it does have the business terms in, and I can assure this commissioner, by the time they get ready to close on their construction financing, the development agreement will be in place.
What about looking at a couple of others here? The Avenue d'Arts, the Comfort Inn Suites. I remember approving that like eons ago. It says developer ready to start construction within 9 months. That's almost 3.5 years. What happened there?
Yes, that's one of those projects, and maybe Bob can give you more information. We had a meeting with that particular developer while I was out of town 2 weeks ago, and they shared more information about what's been happening with them, and it's exactly what I mentioned to you before.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, Bob Ochak with the CRA. That project, we're actually coming back to the commission or the board with next month. And they've accomplished a number of things. One is after the project was approved, they went and had the resolution approved for the height that was done by the city commission. And they also, their plans are in permitting. They had DRC approval, but their plans are in permitting for permits. And that is taking longer than they anticipated. So we met with them. They're moving forward. We may make some changes. We're recommending some changes that we coming back to the commission. The way the payments, actually all the projects fully funded because it was a multi-year funded project. But the way the agreement was set up, they actually don't get their first payment until year one after CO. And then they get the second payment year 2 after CO, and then year 3 after CO. And we'll be coming back with a recommendation that they get fully funded at time of CO, because of course we only have so many years left within our CRA, and they're concerned that the monies won't be available should we wait to get their final payments 2 years after CO. So we're making that recommended change. Also, we're making a change where we're insisting that they complete their permitting process, get their contractor online, and start construction within 9 months after commission action, which would be next month. And they are agreeable to that. So they've already spent, quite a bit of money on the project. Some of the projects that are sort of stalled, you find out that quite a bit of money has been spent. I mean, they bought the property, obviously. We're selling them some additional property that we have that's behind their property. And in addition to that, they've gone through a process through DRC and plan review and other architects and engineers where, they've spent, a few $100,000 trying to advance the project. So, most of these type of projects, they would be obviously very upset if somehow they got defunded, because they are moving forward. They're just not moving forward as quickly as we would like them to.
Okay, anyone else have any questions?
Well, I'm just wondering, just kind of this meeting and the agenda and how we're progressing. So thank you, Clarence, for pointing us to the exhibit. Are you planning on going over the attached exhibit just to give us a brief overview of the 6 pages? I find it helpful when we have these sort of meetings, if someone gives us a backup, that we have somewhat of a presentation about it. I don't want to go line by line, but I probably just need a little overview of the 6 pages that are attached. And then I probably really need to understand what you want us to focus on as a commission. To me, it seems like the projects that are not funded, maybe the red project. So there's a lot of information here. Maybe you could just briefly go over it and let us know, like, where do you need us to kind of help guide you or make some decisions? And then I also want to hear, throughout this meeting at some point today, where are we with the, sunsetting in 2025? How does this all play into looking at 2025 and then backing up?
That's exactly why we're here, Commissioner Moritas. I'll just give you a brief understanding of what the attachment is, and then I'll have Vanessa go ahead and elaborate on it. But basically what it is it's a snapshot of where we've been, which are the projects that are completed in green, the projects that are in process right now, the ones that we are actually managing that are in some levels of completion, where you see the status of those projects. And then we have assigned but not started, meaning that they've come before you. Most of them have come before you. There has been an approval of the project, but they are in some pre-development stage or process at this point in time.
So it may be helpful to understand where are the problems, because when I'm looking at all this, I see different comments and stuff, but is this progressing like normal? Is it, so just kind of high level, like these 5 projects are stalled, or these, I mean, I see that it looks, a lot of things are pending and this and that, and I guess you've listed everything, so we're really focusing on the red pages, but where are there the biggest problems?
I wouldn't.
Or is everything progressing like normal and we're okay and we're on track? I need a better sense of where we are.
I think everything is progressing like normal in light of the fact that we had pretty much a year and a half or 2 years slowed, progress slowed by the pandemic. So that was the convenient excuse for those who may have had issues before the pandemic. But, and I have some thoughts about that. I don't want to put anybody out right here. But we had 2 years of almost 2 years of non-existent activity because nobody could advance their development projects. And I think we need to be mindful of that. But then as we look at, the projects that are in process, they are progressing as they normally would. The ones that we are really discussing are the ones that have been assigned but not started. And there are different reasons as to why those projects have not broken ground as of yet. But I think we are moving, as Bob mentioned, there's a lot of them that have been in the process of pre-development, and they're pushing their projects forward. They're spending money, but it's not happening as fast as, well, it probably wouldn't happen as fast either, but what we needed to do with those projects was establish some milestones, some benchmarks for, okay, after you get approval, there's 9 months, for you to get your entitlements at DSD, then another 3 months or 6 months in order to get your permit, and then another 6 months to go to a closing and a groundbreaking.
Sure. So we're going to track the page 6 of 6, the red section. And then under the comment section, what may be helpful is to see dates instead of saying, in 6 months blank, like by November 1st, this will happen. So maybe when you bring this back to us or you discuss it as a body, we see some dates in terms of the milestones.
As a matter of fact, I'm looking at Megan, and Megan's kind of laughing. When she did her audit of our annual report, that was one of the suggestions that she made as well. So, and we agreed to include that in our reports.
Okay, so when you come back to us, we're just going to be focusing on the last page, and we're going to look at some dates and milestones, and then you all will track those. And then, okay, so go ahead.
Any other questions?
Mayor, I do. Just a couple points. Thanks. First of all, I just wanted to reiterate your concern and everyone else's concern, because I get nervous about just the
When is it, when is the actual date of the sunset?
20
November
30.
2025.
Yeah.
November 2025?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is definitely has to kick into gear. Too many projects and, just not happening and way too much money. Just one question though, Clarence, on page 1, I see, for the Provident project, it says CRA funding 450, but later on it says 420. So has that been amended or does that need to change? Or on page 5 of 6, it says 420, but on the first page it says 450.
Hello, yes, Vanessa Martin. It needs to be amended to 420. The 420 agreement came out a couple months ago, so we need to amend that.
Okay, so page 1, that should say 420 for Provident?
Yes.
Okay. And then, what I think would be helpful actually as a column to see the total investment of the project. I think that would be really helpful, not just the CRA funding, but just to see what we're talking about in terms of total investment on it.
I think that's useful
Actual
as well
and
because
projected. Actual and projected, because you say that some of these projects, they've already spent some of their own money.
yes.
But if you could refresh our memory as to the original proposal and what they intended to invest and what percentage the CRA dollars would represent towards the total project. Is that
Okay,
what
we
you
can-
wanted, Commissioner?
Yes. Okay, great.
We can add those columns.
Okay, thank you.
But I also think, to Steve's point, most of these projects in the CRA, the investors have already secured their properties, unless it's a CRA lot, or we're trying to add something to it. So they came to us with their lots or their buildings and asked for money. So, I mean, their investment's already there. The piece that we incentivize, for example, with Yale's project, kind of slowed them going through our process, and then we found some other things along the way, both similar in his project and Smitty's, with the drainage that we had to go back add. No one even put a dollar amount to it, but it drug for at least a year. I know on your project, I think about 4 months on the Smitty's project. I think we saw it in one other instance, but the initial investment is already there before they come to us and ask for that incentive.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, please proceed.
Okay, I think
Do you feel we were responsive to your question?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things I want to mention in regards to that too is that the commission also needs to consider that in the times that we are in now with the inflation, that there are issues concerning pricing and there could even be issues concerning
Pricing and
supply.
availability.
Right. The other key issue from my standpoint is the upcoming sunset of the CRA. Together with the importance of having projects moving on, it's important for the CRA board to consider an extension of the CRA to not only finish the existing projects that probably are not going to be completed by November 2025, but also for the benefit of the community and to continue to revitalize the area. And I think this is even more so because of the impact that the pandemic has had in the last couple of years.
So let's break that up into two.
Okay.
Alan, can you respond to the issue regarding the sunset of the CRA and how that impacts pending approved projects? Wait, speak in the
I want to have
mic.
Ms. Solomon respond to that because we went through a similar situation with the beach CRA.
With the beach CRA, right?
So the projects that are committed, we can continue,
Right.
but it has the money that's expended has to be for those particular projects. I think we got special dispensation from the county to allow us to go ahead and continue spending that money that was already dedicated for those projects. But beyond that, there's no additional funds that can be expended.
So does that answer your first question? In other words, if the CRA board, the commission, has already approved the project and an expenditure of money by November of 2025, that
Okay.
even if the money is not spent in November of 2025, it can still be used. But the TIF will no longer be collected after November 2025. And what you're asking, this is your second question, can we continue collecting the TIF afterwards? And I can tell you right now that our dear colleagues of the county are not going to be keen on that. However, it doesn't mean that the city commission can't consider the possibility of continuing our contribution towards the TIF for the purposes that you suggested. That's a subject for another time. But
Yeah, because I think it's important, because there's still a lot of work to be done in the Northwest area, and we've made such good progress.
make tremendous progress.
I'd hate to see it stop.
Between the Housing Authority and the CRA, I think in all the years I've lived in the city, you guys have lived here longer, but, even the time that I've lived here,
Yeah,
I think it's a tremendous transformation. Even Flagler Village. When I first became a commissioner in 2003, it was a tumbleweed bowl. There was nothing going on there. See what I gave you?
And look what it became.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, thank you very much.
Mayor, can I ask for an update on what we did vote on to allow the funding to continue beyond the life of the CRA? I believe it was something about the 3% of the project. What was that, Clarence? I know it was some financing mechanism. No, we voted on it. And it allowed a current project can kind of give some money, and then after the CRA is over, then we can approve smaller projects and fund smaller projects that came forward. It wasn't as big. We talked about it probably a couple of years ago. It was before the pandemic.
Well, I'm not familiar with any action, the action that you're speaking of specifically. At this point, there hasn't been any determination as to whether or not, the CRA would continue beyond the life.
Yeah, it wasn't
Maybe
the
it was the,
CRA. It was some other financing
maybe it was that
mechanism. It was an
How
account.
we borrowed the money to pre-fund the projects. I think that's what she's talking about.
Well, even the $20 million, we have to pay that back before the sunset.
The CRA sunsets.
There is nothing, because actually, if we have any indebtedness at the time of the sunset, that basically extends the life of the CRA, any indebtedness that's still there. So the county wanted to be sure, and we had conversations, and they wanted to be very sure that our loan would not go beyond the sunset date.
Interesting. Okay, so you guys don't remember what I'm talking about? I know I met with
So-
you and someone from Harvard, some economic person, and we talked about some kind of financing option where we can continue something in the CRA area.
So what I think you may be speaking of is the Invest Fort Lauderdale, the EDC that we created.
Yes, that would be it.
And that would go beyond the life of the CRA, and some of the different mechanisms or tools that we were looking at utilizing in order to continue it being able to do work in the redevelopment area. But that's not with TIF funds.
No, I know that's not TIF funds. I knew it was a different financing
Yeah,
mechanism
yeah.
that we set up to extend
Yes.
our opportunities to improve the CRA area.
Yes.
So where
yes.
are we with that? That's what I was looking for. Thank you
so-
for helping me remember.
So we actually had our first board meeting last week, the meeting of the Invest Fort Lauderdale, the EDC, and those board members came away really excited about the opportunity that we'll have to continue to do the work of the CRA. And now it's just a matter of, we ran out of time. We didn't get to select our officers. Once we select the officers, we'll then go forward with our filing of the 501c3. And along with that, then we can actually have that organization to start partnering, which is what I think you're talking about, partnering with some of the developers that we've already provided funding for, which is the Adderley, the Larimore, and the Aldrich. All of those projects will be contributing funds to that EDC to continue to do the work of the CRA even beyond its sunset.
Okay, so I just wanted you all to be aware of that because we are exploring opportunities, or I guess we already have, to continue to invest in the CRA area. So maybe, I don't know if they are receiving the updates that we just talked about right now, but so follow that too, because it is something we all agree that we want to make sure we continue to invest in this area. So that was the unique way we came up with financing options to continue investing. So
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Help me remember.
Any other questions? Okay. Were we responsive to your second question?
I believe so. I guess we'll have some further discussion at a later time.
Right.
The other issue that keeps coming up at the CRA Advisory Board is about the status of the wage debt and reimbursement.
Are you looking at me?
I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at you.
I voted for the wave.
Did you bring your checkbook?
This is an issue that keeps coming up, so we wanted to bring that up also at this workshop.
So let's talk about that. So the city commission at one point in time borrowed money from the CRA to help pay for the wave, the extension of the wave into the CRA. Remember, it added a certain section down Sistrunk to Andrews, I believe it was. Alan, you were not the city attorney at the time, but you were here with us.
Yes, we were involved. It was for the loop. So there was, we've had, the only remaining money was with the SFRTA. We've actually had recent communications with them since the last time it was brought up at the city commission by Commissioner McKenzie. I'd say within the last 3 or 4 months. I don't know the status of that as of yet, but I know that we were in contact with them because presumably the money that they were holding had been paid back to the FTA, back to the federal government. So we're still trying to get a full accounting of that and try to claw it back. So the efforts are still in place, but they have not been paid back.
Well, my understanding is the SFRTA is saying, take a hike.
Well, presumably they don't have the money anymore.
Right.
But the question we're trying to answer is, should they have the money?
Right, but there's $10 million out there that was borrowed from the CRA to create the extension of the wave. We decided not to go with the wave, and so the CRA is asking for the money back.
I believe under the prior administration, and the current administration might be able to correct me on it, but there was a request for the city to pay that back, and that was denied. I believe that was the case, and that's where, we're trying to claw back the money, as much money as we could from the dissolution of the wave. And that was the one remaining factor there that we had done a public records request to try to get all their records. But presumably the money's not there anymore. So what we're trying to deal with now is whether they should have not kept the money rather than give it to the FTA.
So what do you say, just for clarity, the city should pay it back? We didn't borrow it, right? We didn't borrow it. So why does?
I believe that we were using that, yes, that the city had, and
The city,
Lynn, do you recall?
Lynn, talk to us about the $10 million in the wave streetcar.
Remember the loop for the wave?
Remember
The money came from the city, correct?
Can you come to the podium, please? Because
I think it was 8. It came from, we loaned it, right?
I think we borrowed it from the CRA.
We borrowed it or we loaned it? Did we borrow it or loan it?
The CRA borrowed 7.5 for the northern part of the way, northern loop of the way.
And where did we borrow it from?
SunTrust, I believe.
And when you say we have to, we request to pay it,
The CRA had asked the city to
pay it back,
take the debt service, right?
and we denied it. We meaning the board.
So the CRA borrowed it from whom?
Bank.
From whom? I can't hear you.
SunTrust.
Bank.
The bank.
From the bank. And is it still owed to a bank?
Presumably that debt's been serviced
Yeah, the CRA
by
paid.
the CRA.
CRA paid it.
And there was a request of the city to reimburse the CRA. And if I recall the way that decision went, it was like we were all engaged in it in the beginning, and when we decided not to move forward, everybody lost their little piece of whatever the.
Right. So the bottom line is, the CRA is out this amount of money.
They took the hit.
They took the hit. And so they're coming here today with saying, pay up.
Well, they're asking, where
We're
is
asking for
it?
the status.
Status of it, because. But
I
this
know
is a,
what status means.
this is a good.
I don't think you're ever gonna see that money.
But why, I mean, not questioning, why would you say that?
Because we've been kicking that issue, that can down the road for a long time, and it would have to come out of our operating funds. That's what I'm thinking.
We were the ones, and I'm not.
I know.
We were
I
the
know.
ones that asked them to do it. They took the risk, and then we got hit when we denied the furthering of the wave, and
This was the fallout as a result of that. We should, the commission can, that's the CRA board, when we sit as a board, can certainly discuss actions we want to take, and also the commission can discuss what actions it wants to take, but we really have not discussed this since, for at least
5 years ago.
several years ago, yeah.
Our last contact with the FTA with the SFRTA was in December with the executive director, and they were going to work with the FTA to try to get reimbursement, but we haven't heard back. So
Right.
we're still, like I said, I'm not necessarily optimistic that the FTA is going to pay back any money.
So when we borrowed it, we gave it to the FTA, right?
SFRTA initially, yeah, there was some change because at some point, SFRTA no longer had the project. But they did the initial spending on design with Siemens, I believe, and there were some expenditures there. But I know that there was a change in funds. At some point, it got paid back, and they were supposed to hold it. And I think the FTA came in knocking at the door and saying, we want our money back, and they paid it back.
I'm still confused. We borrowed it. We gave it to whom?
Initially,
Not initially,
think-
to whom?
well, that's initially, that would be to whom? That's the
Gave it
SFRTA.
initially? We gave it to somebody.
SFRTA,
So we gave it to them,
yes.
and what happened then?
Then the wave continued. They went into design. They were dealing with Siemens. They did some expenditures. At some point, I can't remember exactly what entity, whether it was Broward County that took over the project. And then when everything started unraveling, like the city manager said, everybody sort of left the sandbox. And we all lost a piece of the puzzle because we, as if you recall, had to pay back all the assessments. So we had to go back and go back and find everyone that had paid an assessment. We had to pay that back. And I don't remember what the total was on that, but it was quite a sum.
So do we have any legal recourse after that entity?
We might if we can determine that they were not supposed to return it to the FTA. But that's what we haven't determined yet because we're still trying to get details as to the transfer to the
Okay,
FTA.
you just lost me again. Who is they?
That's FRTA,
Got that part. You said they in between their,
the FTA.
who gave it to them?
The SFRTA gave,
Okay.
yeah, to the FTA.
Thank you.
Basically, SFRTA gave it to the feds.
Oh, okay.
So we're working on it.
Okay.
So we're gonna have a,
A come to Jesus moment.
amen. We're gonna come to Jesus and figure out where do we go next.
Right.
Okay.
How much did the city lose in the wave also? Because I know we, as a partner, also lost money. Do we know how much that was?
I could get you an exact number. It was not as significant as the total project, but there were funds that were lost in design.
When we
And there
do-
were funds that were saved because we didn't do the project.
That's correct.
Right. Well, I'm just curious how much we lost, how much you lost.
And when we do come back, can we have more than presumably, initially, and we're using all these words other than what that number is or was. What is the total damages that we invested to try to move forward in transportation, and then we hit a roadblock? What was all these conversations, what was that total dollar amount that we're talking about from the initial question of the chair?
I don't know. Do we even ever figure that out?
Yeah, I can, unfortunately, the best person to answer this is probably Laura Reese, and she's across the parking lot in her office. We'll get that information out to you in either this format, if we can get to it before we're done, or we'll get it out to you in a memo.
Okay.
What I can tell you is that, since we're on the topic of CRA, that what is still owed on the debt that was issued is $4.6 million. And the CRA's servicing that debt at about $780,000 a year.
Okay, so they're still paying that out. Okay.
That's correct.
So that's impacting our bottom line to further advanced projects. And that's-
Well, it's dollars going to service debt as opposed to dollars to service
Yeah,
projects.
servicing debt instead of incentivizing investment in the CRA. So we really should revisit this as quickly as possible to see what it is we can do and cannot do.
Okay.
So, Alan, just so I'm clear, what are your next steps on this?
Well, finance had been dealing with the SFRTA to try to get more information. It's again, we're sort of at the mercy of them and the FTA at some point. Like I said, I had done we weren't getting adequate responses from SFRTA, so I did a public records request for whatever financial records they had, which was sort of scant. And until we get, again, if they've paid the FTA, then we'd have to either determine why and in what course they paid back to the FTA, and then go from there to determine whether there was a reasonable basis for that. If they just gave it away when they shouldn't have, we may have legal recourse.
Okay, so you're kind of currently investigating that and
Yeah.
seeking answers, okay, and are going to keep us updated.
But if the FTA were to do that money, I mean, like I said, everybody lost money in the deal.
Right.
So if they were due and it was reasonable for them or legal for them to pay back the FTA, then those funds are gone.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay.
One other item that was brought up at our last advisory board member by the community is the fact that the Northwest area is still considered a food desert with the lack of some type of neighborhood grocery store that really needs to be sought out. I know staff, I'm sure, has been working on that issue, but whatever support or help I think that you can give to try to make that possible in that Northwest area would be appreciated. It's long overdue. Save-A-Lot was there. It's no longer there. So there is the need for some type of neighborhood grocery store.
Can I speak to that, Mayor?
Yes.
Well, this is why when we started talking about Chin Medical coming to that site, I opposed it because in the development agreement way back before I arrived here, the agreement stated that had to be a grocery store. And I don't think we've ever had a legitimate grocery store. I've shopped at Save-A-Lot before, and I think once or twice it was because I just needed something that day, like some paper napkins or something. It's not where I go to take care of my daily needs in my household. And I think and I've had a talk with the Joneses, I cannot support a medical company going in there. I know it would help them, but we have incentivized that project so much so over the years. There's nothing negative against them, but we really had to figure out how to bring Winn-Dixie, Publix, Whole Foods, something that would dispel this food desert cloud that has hung over our heads for some 35 to 38 years now. So I don't want to just give in to a medical company just because the storefronts are empty.
All right, so I think we've had this conversation before, and one of the reasons why the medical company made more sense is because the square footage where Save-A-Lot is an insufficient footprint for a typical Publix or Winn-Dixie. Normally, I believe was it 17,000 square feet is Save-A-Lot or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And there's no model in any, because I've spoken personally with these people, there's no model anywhere that would apply to a site that's that small. But we have spoken with some developers. In fact, there's a fellow here in the back of the room who has been talking about building a project in the Sistrunk area. and is actually looking for funding from the CRA to assemble property and to create a concentration of population, a critical mass that would now justify a traditional known grocery brand that could come to the Northwest. That's always been the problem, the critical mass of individuals with sufficient disposable income to justify it. So a lot of folks in the Northwest go to go to Walmart down on further south, but that doesn't answer the question of how we get something along the Sister corridor. So trying to work with the investors and developers who are going to bring larger projects to the area is the key to trying to secure a brand mainstream grocery store. I spoke with the Publix people myself on this very issue, and they're prepared to do something, but they need that concentration of population sufficient to justify it. As we keep building more and more in the Northwest with more units, we're on the path to that. But in the meantime, we have to try to work with these developers to see what we can get them to keep bringing more and more units to the area. That's the formula we have to work with.
So explain to me about the gentleman in the back of the room that can develop this site, because it's not a site that you can assemble. It's already in a.
It's an assemblage, right?
So he's got to assemble more property to do this? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I can't answer for him, but I do know that in speaking with Mr. Peretz, he has indicated to us that as he assembles property.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's back here. He can talk to us.
So you can do a grocery store there, a Winn-Dixie or a Publix?
Ayala, you want to come up here?
Can you come up and help us understand this quest? And also, Mayor, and not to debate the facts, when I spoke to Publix, they said that their models have changed, and they now do neighborhood stores.
Is that right?
Where they don't always have to have that big footprint anymore, and they could do it. So if we all express collectively that this is what we want to do, and this is a critical need in an area that has been deprived, they may consider this one of their neighborhood spots. Because even at the corner, the piece you bought from Felipe, 7th Avenue and 9th, I took them to that spot just before Felipe bought it, and they said that spot was a developable site for a neighborhood Publix. So I think we can get this done if we bring them to the table. And I would love for you to lead it, Mayor. I think they could use either footprint, but they would have to know that we're serious and move forward. But I would like to hear if there's a Winn-Dixie or a Publix in what the mayor just spoke to.
The Publix at A1A and 30th will be about 20,000 square feet.
Is that at 20,000?
20,000, about 20,000.
Smallest
Yeah.
footprint.
Here's the good
Chris,
thing,
you
man.
wanna-
Also, before you move, in that plaza where the Family Dollar is, next to it is another leasable space. So if I think that's about 8,000 more square feet. So if we're looking for additional square feet, we could move Family Dollar over to the end, expand the footprint of Save-A-Lot, and Publix will have some 22,000 square feet to put there, a traditional store. But this is the first time we had a real talk about it. And I think we can make this happen. If not there, then what is it that you would bring to the table?
So I didn't plan to talk about it, but
Introduce yourself.
I should wear a helmet when I come.
Yeah. That's why we have the glass shield around.
Hey, buckle up your chin grab.
But
These are bulletproof, just.
so okay, I feel better now.
Yeah.
But so thank you everybody first of all, and I've been in touch with Publix. I've been in touch with Winn-Dixie. I've been going back and forth with all of the major grocers, for the past several years. The issue and the repeating feedback that I received is very clear. They drew a line. The line is Broward, the tracks, Sunrise, and 95. And they have a number of 6,500 residential units in that box that they need to see in order for them to come in. We actually made a proposal that I thought was to die for, to one of these major grocers, where we offered them to come in at 50% of the market rate until this the residential development will kick in, and we see so much traction right now with Felipe's project, with another project that we have right now in design review board. So the trajectory is there. So I felt comfortable enough to tell them we'll cut the price in half until we get there. They went, they looked at it, they came back, they said until the number is there, we're not in. In terms of size, when they talked to us, they did not want to take a 20,000 square foot box. They wanted a 35,000 square foot box. That was probably less than a year ago, the last discussion we had with them, probably 6, 7 months ago. I do agree the community must have a grocer. It has to be addressed, and I think that this is one of the critical elements that the community needs right now and for a while. The avenue that we're trying to tackle right now is to partner with the smaller grocer concept that have a few locations, and we are actually in discussions with 2 of those at the moment to try to see if they will come in the context of a master development that encompasses several of the properties that we currently own and potentially some properties we don't own. So it's in the works, but I don't want to make false statements until I have it nailed. I learned that I can only speak of what I can deliver. But there are active discussions right now. I can say my last phone call was about it on the same subject was yesterday. And so we are working towards it. We are definitely focused on that. And it is a challenge, though. I don't want to make it sound like an easy task. It is a challenge. The feedback we received so far from the professional grocers, is that there is a process that they need to go through.
We need to get to 65,000, they're saying. What are we at now?
6,500.
6,500, sorry?
Yeah, based on the numbers that they gave me, it was a little shy over 4,200.
We're at 4,200, they want to see 6,500, okay.
Correct. And I try to convince them also to take a look at, to incorporate east of the tracks, because some of these multifamilies is just across the tracks and add substantial density. And like my wife, they didn't listen, but.
Happens to us all, So, what's the square footage of some of the smaller?
About 15,000.
15,000 you're talking with?
And these are the discussions that we're having right now. We try to focus and narrow it down to grocers that can deliver the impact. This is not like a one-off operation or things like this. So we narrowed 2 operators that have several locations. They both have been on Sistrunk already. One of them came twice already, and the discussions are ongoing. I can't make any claims that that it's a done deal, but we're definitely focused on trying to make it.
Okay, nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right. There are several people who signed up to speak. Do you have any more comments you'd like to make?
No, I don't, unless I missed something.
Anyone from your committee, from the board?
Ayel, could you give us your name for the record, like the mayor asked you in the beginning? Tell him your name. Go to the podium. Yeah, for the record.
My name is Eyal Peretz
And
from
you represent
Fuse
which
Group.
The Fuse Group.
Correct. Our business is right by the CRA. We have our headquarters on Sistrunk for the past 5 years.
And they own the CRA building. They own Diamond Core short piece there. They also have the Bass Brothers project. They have the piece at 7th Avenue. They have the old Broward Glass. They have the old Little Palace. They have Sunshine
we invested
Recycling.
very heavily in
and they have the piece right behind the between the river, the daycare center and the service station on 7th Avenue. Am I correct?
That is accurate, sir. Yeah, we heavily invested in Sistrunk. We really believe that this is an amazing community that that has all the possibilities to develop and continue growing and become a very active corridor.
Well, we appreciate the investment that you're making.
Thank you,
in-
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to reach back out to Felipe because he even considered in his Adderley project a grocery store. So it's not that we aren't working. We just got to find something that will work.
Dr. Beasley Pittman, are you still here? Oh, there you are. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Dr. Pamela Beasley Pittman. I'm the president of Historic Dorsey Riverbend Civic Association. We are in the heart of the Sixth Trunk Corridor, and we are really asking the commission, if you would, to please consider extending this sunset of the CRA date. I know you had a lengthy discussion today about that, and that was one of the things several months ago. We did come to the advisory board asking if it could be considered, and I'm really excited today to hear the conversation and hoping that we can move forward in an extension for the date where those funds can continue, where we do not see a delay nor a discontinue of the projects that are going forward on the northwest section. As you know for yourself, there are some projects that are pending, they've been stalled, and with that date of the November 2025, the time is coming very close where we could, if not handled correctly, we would definitely lose out on the northwest section. So we're asking that you please make this happen. Do not let it sunset without those funds being allocated and continuing for the projects that are going in our neighborhood. And I wasn't sure about some of the procedure with this. It is new to me because I came prepared to ask if it could even be extended by another 7 years. So I don't know if I'm out of a lane, but that would give really an opportunity of 10 years to make that money work. So if that's something possible, if that could be a discussion among you. You know for yourself, our community is full of heritage and legacy, and we want to benefit as well as the other parts of the city has with those fundings.
All right,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you so much. Is Michael Lucent here? Michael? Okay. All right, so is there any further business of the workshop?
No, there's none, and I just want to thank the commission as the CRA board having this workshop with us. I think we'll probably plan in the future to have another workshop, but we hope to see some progress on these issues.
Well, and I want to thank you and everyone who's on the board for your continued commitment. I know there's a lot of hours you all put in, and there's a lot of work involved, and you help. You certainly help the CRA board come to its decisions more easily as you investigate and research things and bring it to our attention. So we thank you for doing that, and thank you for taking your time today. Whoops, I have to shut up. Hey, stop. But yeah, we do need to meet more regularly, and especially as the deadline approaches for the termination of the CRA, we need to have a healthy discussion as to where we're going to go with that, and certainly we can schedule it for another CRA board meeting to have that interaction with us. Okay. Any other questions of the CRA advisory board? No, there being none.
I don't have a question, but we talked about it. But so, like, when we meet monthly, can we just put in there, as the vice mayor was saying, updates of projects, so we can get to it? And you and I spoke last meeting, Mayor, briefly about when we do have lengthy meetings, we have to prolong them to the night meeting. Let them go first, so they don't lose some of the people that have been sitting here since.
I agree. Like tonight. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Meeting concluded. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.